Lovely.
Okay, we are 38 of us. Okay. Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the launching edition of the School Feeding Program organized by Community Vision Group. Community Vision Group is a non-governmental organization which is out to promote SDG 3, that's Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which is promoting good health and well-being. And we're so grateful for 41 people present. Your presence is not taken for granted, as we are aware that your presence signifies support and willingness to push this initiative forward. Okay. My name is Ngako Patricia. I'm going to be your moderator for this program, and I will be moderating this program with Sarandi King, who will be joining us, who will be moderating the levels ahead. Before we dive into the program, I would love us to look at a few, I would love us to look at a few housekeeping rules. Oh, what happened? I'm so sorry about that. Can you see my screen, please? Okay. Okay. Before we begin, we would love to remind you that you keep your mic muted, your microphone muted, unless it is time for you to speak or unless you have a question to ask. This will help us to keep the background noise to a minimum and make sure that you mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Be mindful of your background noise when your microphone is not muted. Avoid activities that could create additional noise, such as shuffling of papers or a phone ring. The session is being recorded, and if you would love to turn on your camera, please position your camera properly. And then would love to plead that you limit distractions, because it will make it easier to focus on the meeting. So would love to plead that you turn off all notifications and all apps that might disturb you throughout the session. Would love to remind you again that the session will be recorded, and please make use of the chat box in case you have any questions. Okay, right now I would love to hand over the stage to Sarandi King, who will be coming forward to take on the next steps.
Thank you so much, Miss Patricia. She's beaming right away from Ghana. It's quite an honor and privilege to be on board. I can see the likes of Sir Mickey Gilbert, Sir Gottlob Njisom, Sir Jaffney Joybert, and Madam Almighty Chamfak. Thank you so much for being on this call, and thank you so much, Patricia, for taking on the ride. So without much ado, I think it is necessary for us to proceed while others join us on board, because we are equally going to share this record to others and they can follow from there. Now we are gathered here because Community Vision Group has an objective. They have a plan and they want us to implement. We're all gathered here because we have a good heart for humanity. We are gathered because we want to see a sustainable future being guaranteed. And so we have someone He is an early career researcher with deep passion for school health and nutrition. This man has 10 years of experience with different organizations and institutions, and he has worked with them in the likes of Nascent Solutions, Pan-African Institute for Development, West Africa, Plan International Psychosocial Support Project, GIZ, GPDRDEP. He is equally a delegate for the 2017 UN World Data Forum. In fact, this man is so loaded that we think, and we may think that God decided to endow just him, but no, he has a bachelor's in education in geography from the University of Boya. He has a master's in international development from the University of Sheffield in the UK. He is a PhD researcher at the School of Agriculture, Policy Development and Reading. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a 2012 Chevening Scholar, a 2019 Commonwealth PhD Scholar, and he is the Open Dreams Graduate Mentor. He is the brain behind CVG. And one thing I know for sure is the fact that he was not very well endowed horizontally with height, but he has been endowed mightily mentally. We have no other person to call but our very own Sir Mickey Gilbert. Please, in the chat box, give it up for Sir Mickey.
Wow. Thank you, Randy. Sometimes when the introduction comes, you're asking yourself if you are the person they're introducing or some other person. Patricia, would you mind if I share my screen from here?
Okay, sir, no problem.
Okay, lovely. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. I'm just taking this slideshow. Thank you very much, Randy. Thanks everyone for coming on board. It's such a privilege to have everyone here. Like Patricia did mention, we don't take your participation this afternoon, this morning, this evening, whatever you are tuning in for granted. Community Vision Group is such an amazing organization, which is just taking off its roots in Cameroon, in Malawi, and here in the United Kingdom. What I'll be presenting first is just an overview of what Community Vision Group is all about, and then we'll transition to what school feeding programs are, and more specifically, the program in which we are looking forward to begin in Cameroon, mainly in the conflict-affected communities. Community Vision Group is a not-for-profit organization, as I did mention, and we actually out to provide those practical solutions to the realities that are the challenges that are confronting our communities. And Community Vision Group is legally authorized to function in the UK, in Malawi, in Cameroon. So we have the legal backing to operate in these parts of the world. Basically, why Community Vision Group? A couple of factors come together to really justify why we are existing as an organization. But at the core of all of this is the child. Children are at the core of our intervention. And so because millions of children lack access to education, they lack the support, they lack the opportunities that can help them to grow up to the level, the potential to unleash the potentials in which we so much desire. Because they face these obstacles, we just believe that as Community Vision Group, it is our responsibility to help these children escape the road out of poverty. It is our responsibility to help them come out of the net of food insecurity, conflicts and wars and all the like. And so What do we believe in? As Community Vision Group, we believe that these children, they deserve services that will support their nutritional and their health well-being. We believe that these children deserve the best educational systems that need to be put in place to guarantee their future. And Community Vision Group is posing like the advocates with the capacity to challenge the injustices that these children definitely face in our communities. And so moving on, what Community Vision Group is all about, it might be very important for us to highlight here that Community Vision Group has 3 strategic areas of operation. And these 3 strategic areas of operation are supporting quality, access to quality primary education, supporting healthcare service delivery, and technical vocational education and training, which is the foundation and the bedrock of our very existence. But if we move on to look at what is the vision of Community Vision Group, our vision is to help transform communities through a shared responsibility, because we do believe that transforming our communities is not an individual effort. It's going to be a shared responsibility. And we envision contributing to this transformation. Our mission is simply to contribute to a poverty-free society. It's a big question here. Are we really going to be poverty-free someday, sometime? Yes. It depends how we want to define poverty. It might be child poverty, it might be educational poverty, it might be food poverty. How do we want to target this? And so Community Vision Group wants to contribute to that picture. The first initiative which we are looking at under improving quality primary education is the school feeding program, which we are all assembled today to get the concept, how we want to activate this initiative to support children in conflict-affected communities. Closely associated to that is the program, the initiative called Energy for Education. We believe that children in the rural community who have access to electricity will definitely benefit from the provision of solar lamps, so they can be able to compete, to study in like environments like their urban counterpart. And then we have Train to Teach and the Backpack Support Program. Train to Teach, we do believe that our children in the rural communities, they do not have access to well-trained, qualified teachers. And we believe that through Community Vision Group, we can make the narrative different. We can usher in the difference we want in the community. At the level of the healthcare service delivery, Community Vision Group is known for 2 aspects. The very first, which is hepatitis B screening support initiative. And since children are at the core of our intervention, we're talking about the birth dose, universal birth dose. And this is quite an exciting program because Community Vision Group, in 2021, we emerged one of the 6 global winners as the best advocacy organization in the world. And this year, 2022, we are happy to announce again that we are coming on stage just because of this program. This is really, really important. Finally, we have the technical vocational program, which we are prioritizing mainly for Malawi. We have skills training, and we have the startup support program, which is going to be falling on just in line with what we're doing. School feeding program, what is it all about? It is important before we get to know what we are doing at the level of Cameroon to actually support children in conflict-affected community. It's good for us to understand what school feeding is all about. These are just interventions that are designed to provide daily healthy nutrition, nutritious meals to children at their place of education. Conventionally, there are 2 main objectives: to enhance educational and nutritional outcomes. And then we are coming in with the additional package which makes it very, very vital in our context, which is the homegrown school model, which is going to be speeding up and transforming the communities through improved agricultural production. And it's good for us to understand that globally, over 663 million children are enrolled in primary schools, but only 388 million of these children actually access school feeding programs. 328 million of them live in areas where school feeding programs are very inadequate, like Cameroon. 251 million of them live in areas where there are significant nutrition deficits. And so children in these areas are generally more than 20% of them are anemic in nature, and they also experience some degree of stunting. And so Community Vision Group is also looking at the over 73 million children in the 60 countries that are living in extreme poverty. And so school feeding programs, especially the homegrown school feeding model, has the potential to transform the lives of these children and their communities if we effectively implement them at the right scope and the right quality. And so this is just a picture to give us a picture of how many children globally were receiving school feeding programs pre-COVID-19. The picture has greatly changed afterwards. And we are moving on to look at CVG school feeding program. After getting this bigger picture, CVG school feeding program, what do we aspire to do? We want to inspire hope. We believe that when you induce food to combine with educational initiatives, there is hope. And so Community Vision Group is here to usher in this intervention at the level of the Northwest region. We all, those of all from Cameroon and those who have known a little bit about Cameroon, since 2016, there have been kind of worsening conflict situation in this part of the world, leaving over 712,800 internally displaced persons as of March 2021. Of these, our interest is with the children. Over 700,000 children in this part of the world do not have access to education, and many schools, predominantly the government schools, have been shut down. So across the Northwest region, where Community Vision Group is going to be targeting, mostly community and mission schools are operating now as safe learning spaces with many children from poor socioeconomic backgrounds whose parents cannot afford to send them, to displace them to neighboring regions where there is no conflict. So after a close to 5 years of school disruption, these children lack the incentive to return to school despite all the efforts by the communities and faith-based institutions. And so with this burden, we want to ensure the educational and nutritional well-being of these children. And Community Vision Group is determined to use the locally sourced, healthy, nutritious meals to attract these children back to school as a strategy towards improving their health and nutritional as well as educational well-being. So what is our intervention all about? Our program is called Feed the Child Initiative and is formulated as an integrated home-based, community-based homegrown school feeding. We want to be able to feed these children with food that is locally produced. So our model will permit us not only to feed the children in safe learning spaces, but we'll be sourcing food from these local communities, thereby improving the socioeconomic conditions of smallholder farmers. Just to highlight here that it will cost just 150 francs CFA in local currency. In British pounds is just 20 pence or 24 cents in US dollars, or 25.25 euros to feed a child per day in our targeted learning spaces. Community Vision Group is aiming to serve a total of 269,820 meals to over 1,499 children for the 2022-2023 academic year. So for every donation that is going to be coming in to secure a plate of food for a child, it will be a direct contribution to the socioeconomic empowerment of our local communities. Our promise is to feed the child and to transform the community by serving these locally sourced, healthy, and nutritious meals. What is the likelihood, the benefit of all of this program? We don't want to just invest in something we don't know how that is going to be, what is going to be changing. I want to begin by saying that Community Vision Group School Feeding Program is a step towards investing to children's development beyond the first 1,000 days. What is going to happen after the first 1,000 days is what we are focusing on. And as I already highlighted from the beginning, this school feeding program will be making sure that smallholder farmers in the communities put more money into their pocket. We'll be salvaging them from food insecurity issues. Children will be able to learn effectively, especially girl child education. Agricultural productivity will be boosted, and therefore food systems will be offset at the level of the communities. And then most importantly, we'll be ensuring some degree of dietary diversity and the growth in the practices of good health and nutrition. And so all of this is going to benefit our communities, and our donors only require to support the children by investing in the lives of these children by putting in just 150 francs per meal per day per child in our local currency. So far, this is the picture. Since we are targeting over 269,820 meals, so far we have already raised some donations amounting to cover over 4,752 meals, and we still have 265,068 meals to actually fundraise. How are you thinking to volunteer with us? Then you can do so by joining the network, the movement, to tell our story, to help organize fundraising events, to set up a community vision group, school feeding club, or a group in your community, in your school, in your church. You can spread the word. There are many ways in which you can get along with this movement. Are you thinking of donating? Are you thinking of donating now or later? These are our transfer modalities. Bank transfers in Cameroon. If you are doing it in euros, you are doing it in US dollars. We also have the mobile money account, which is quite interesting, as well as donations within the UK. I will be coming back at some point to talk about this later. What I strongly believe in is that CVG school feeding program is such a lofty initiative with a triple impact. For every donation, we will be helping to keep a child in school, we'll be helping to improve their nutritional status, and we'll be helping to boost the local agricultural economy. So thank you. I will stop here, and then I will be bouncing back at some point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sir Mickey, for this inspiring presentation. I think it is so heart-touching that someone may begin to think positive towards the direction. Thank you so much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat box, can we just give it up for Sir Mickey for this explicit presentation? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir. Now, there is a question in the chat box, Mickey, you may want to answer now. At the same time, we may want to create time for that. This question is from Madame Charlotte. She says, with the disruption of schools as a result of the crisis, how will you bring children together, knowing fully well that many schools are closed till date?
Right, maybe I just pick on that question before we move on. I earlier highlighted that children are studying in safe learning spaces, which means the traditional school system is not functioning the way we think. And so in these communities where we are targeting, we have already enrolled about 60 community and mission schools that are actually run by the churches. And we also have schools that are run by the communities. We refer to them as safe learning centers. And so we are just accompanying these safe learning centers that are fully operational, that are accommodating these children that do not have the possibility to relocate either in Douala, in Yaoundé, in Bafoussam, because of the poor socioeconomic background. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, very well it does. And just to also highlight on these key things, a plate of food is 150 francs, which is just 20 pence and 24 cents or 0.25 euro. So I think that when the moment comes, it's going to be very easy for us to do this knowing fully well that we want to feed the nation and cause children to go back to school so that we can have a future bright and fair. Thank you so much, Sir Mickey. And so, Patricia, we have something on the table. And we are just going to watch keenly on our slides or your screen. Please just view your screen. There is a picture we are going to post for you to see, and you're going to answer the question that follows. This is just a quick icebreaker before we move to the next. All right, Pat. The question is, can you identify the person on the picture? Chat box. Okay, I can see. Please take note of the question. The question is, can you identify the person in the picture? Many people are giving us the, all right. I can see people now correcting themselves. Mr. Mancho and Jabed, Nathaniel Chan, you are getting the answers right. Dr. Gwanyam Manuela, thank you. For Immaculate, thank you. The question is, can you identify the person on the slide? Yes, I can. Thank you so much. The next question is, what do you remember about her? You can freely write what you remember about her. She sacrificed a lot to feed the less privileged. Her selflessness in her service to humanity, a generous giver, her humanitarian works of charity. Oh, wow. This tells me we know who she is, Mother Teresa. She has done a lot for humanity. And the question is, what will people remember you for? Patricia.
Thank you so much, Sir Randy. This will lead us to our next presenter. He is a certified management consultant, personal development expert with over 5 years experience in helping people identify, develop, and deploy their potentials. He is a trained engineer, an author. He is the founder of the most famous event that is known as Go Mad, which means go make a difference. He has trained, coached, and mentored over 2,500 Cameroonians in the areas of leadership, personal development, communication, peak performance, public speaking, and disruptive technologies. I cannot stop this introduction without mentioning the fact that he is married. And not only married, he is happily married to his wife, Miranda, and they are blessed with 3 boys. He is no other person but Mr. Jason Godlove. Mr. Jason Godlove, you have the floor now.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone listening, depending on where you're listening from. Thank you, dear panelists, Randy and Patricia. And of course, I would like to thank Mr. Mickey Gilbert for this wonderful initiative, of course, through the Community Vision Group. I'm really excited and happy to join any initiative that makes a difference in the community, in the life of other people. I want to believe that everyone is getting me.
Very well, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be requesting that Patricia comes up with my slides. Okay, thank you. She's doing that already. So I actually remember that while back in primary school, there were moments that eating was a big problem. and you could only survive by begging from other people. And I want to believe that this initiative is to ensure that children who are in school, especially in these areas that have been greatly affected, instead of thinking of what they are going to eat, they'll be able to concentrate on their studies. So I was given the assignment by Mr. Mickey to pay special attention to building on the legacy of Mother Teresa. So I will, can I get the next slide, please? And I will be very fast because I just have 15 minutes. I would like Patricia to go with me at the same speed. So I'm talking on building on the legacy of Mother Teresa, on feeding, and thankfully a lot of people were already able to acknowledge or to recognize who she is. You always see her putting on this particular type of dress. So my aim, what I really want to do this moment is just to challenge us to think about the works of Mother Teresa, and most importantly, be inspired to give fundamental help to the children that community vision group will be talking about. And when I talk about fundamental help, is because when you look at Maslow hierarchy of needs, you discover that right below or at the beginning is the basic need is for people to be able to have shelter, for them to have something to eat, and for them to have something to drink. And so everything we are talking about here, looking at the life of Mother Teresa, is to see how we can actually inspire ourselves to do what she was doing, even if it's not to the same degree, but to have the same mindset with her. Patricia, slide, please. You may just need to be going very fast as I'm going so that I don't have to be saying slides every time. I'm already on the next slides where I will quickly give some facts about Mother Teresa, because some of us already know who she was. She was actually born on the 27th of August in 1910. Her real name was Agnes Gwanzu Bujikzu, and she was the youngest child of this politician called Nicola. At the age of 12, she had already decided that on what her religious life was going to be. At the age of 18, she joined the Sisters of Loreto, and then by 21, she took her vow. And later on, she would join an Irish order of Sisters of Loreto, and then it's when she took her vows that she became Sister Teresa, because we already saw what her name was. On the 10th of September, 1946, Teresa was quietly praying on her train, traveling to traveling from Calcutta rather to Darjeeling, that God spoke to her. That's what she sees. And upon return to the convent in Calcutta, that's when she requested that she wanted to go and live in the slums. She wanted to go and work with them. But of course, this was refused. The request was refused because as a trained nun, there was already a plan for her on what she was supposed to be doing. So after 2 years, she was given special permission from her work to go and stay in the slums. When we talk about the slums, for some people who are listening, they may not actually know what slums are. But for people who have been to countries that are extremely poor, because I must ascertain here that Cameroon is not so poor as many people think. Country that have a lot of population, countries that have 50 million people, 100 million people, they tend to have areas where very poor people live. These areas are very dirty. The diseases can actually spread very quickly in such areas. And she requested, she wanted to go and live in one of such places. And she was finally given the permission in 1948. That's when she went and started staying there. So the Vatican letter gave her permission to set up missionaries of charity. And the aim was to help her to care for the people who are hungry, to care for the people who are naked and homeless, to care for the people who are crippled, blind, lepers, and everything that goes with being needy, with fundamental needs. And she was able to embrace all of this and put in her energy. She started her organization with just 13 nuns who believe in her. But as for the last time I checked, there were more than 4,000 volunteers, because she actually works mostly with volunteers working with her. As I was looking into the life of Mother Teresa, one of the things that I saw was how her typical day used to look like. She would get up at 4:30. There are a lot of people here at that time. They are not awake. At times, me, myself. And then when she gets up at that time, she prays for 2 hours with all the other sisters. She gets light breakfast. Now, why would she get light breakfast? Because she wanted to identify herself with the poor people. She wanted to do things the same way they were doing. And then she would walk out to the slum dressed with the blue bordered white sari dress that we saw her in all of those pictures. You discover that all her pictures, that's what she used to wear. And she was quite devoted in time management. She would teach the children. She would work with the sick, with the dying, the suffering, the people who are having terminal diseases. And then she would go out to collect food, prepare it, and give to them. And then the later part of her day, she will spend it making calls to raise funds. And one of the things that you need to know about Mother Teresa is that she was not afraid of anyone. She used to write letters to the American president. She used to write letters. It doesn't matter who you are. When she needed something, she will act, because her priority was to make sure that these children were being fed. We are told that in 1948, that's when she dedicated the majority of her life in helping the poorest of India. And that's how she came about to gain the name Saint of the Gutters. And because she was dealing with people who were actually sick, she later on went in to receive medical training. That was in Paris, in France. And in 1952, she opens a Nima here day. In English, is Pure Heart for people who are already dying. 1915, she opened a Nema Shishu. That's Immaculate Heart for the lost children, or it was a children's home. In 1957, she opened what will be known as the City of Peace, a home for lepers. Then her order now became well known for her work. During her lifetime, during 1950s, the 60s, she was well known. But in the midst of all this, doing all this great work, going up and down, she had a lot of challenges herself, especially health-wise. She had her first attack while visiting the Pope. Then in 1989, she had a second heart attack. And that's when she was fitted with a pacemaker, at least to help her heart to function well. In 1992, she was hospitalized in USA for pneumonia and heart problems. In 1993, she had stroke. In 1996, in April, she fell and broke her 3 collars. But all of these, until she later on died in 1997, we need to note that she never gave up at any given moment. She never gave up at any given moment. And so there are a lot of things that we can actually learn from Mother Teresa. And those are the things that I would like us to look at briefly. The first thing that we actually see from her is that our journey must not be easy before we decide that we are going to help another person. You don't need to have it easy to think that you can help another person. Because when food is mentioned, it was like, oh, all my children, I have a lot of people who are dependent on me. I cannot feed them all. Why is it that I should go ahead and feed another person? So we see her health challenges and the fact that she decided to live with the poor. She could have simply decided to live with the other nuns, have a good life, work in clean environment, but she decided to stay in hardship and be able to help the other people. The second thing is that no man is an island. As a matter of fact, the people that will refuse to help when we have the possibility to help them, they will grow up tomorrow to become the threat in our society. So there's this circle that goes around that we need to understand. As you make life easier for the underprivileged children, we are also making life easier for our own children for tomorrow. Because the people who refuse to help today, they are the ones who are going to be thieves tomorrow. The people who refuse to help today, and at the end of the day, they don't have help from anywhere, they are the ones that are going to be destroying our society tomorrow. So one of the best way to make sure that the world is a better place tomorrow is to understand that no one is an island and help those we can help today. One of the most powerful lessons so that we learn from her is the fact that judgment will prevent us from seeing good in people. She will always say, if we judge people, we will not have time to love them. That's what Mother Teresa used to say. One of the powerful lessons too we get out from this lady is we have all been created for great things. And so no matter where we find ourselves, it doesn't matter whether you're a professional, you're a business person, you don't need to be a volunteer in the field. You don't need to be a field worker to be able to help. You can allow yourself to be the channel through which great things are being done. And directly connected to this is the fact you should understand that your work matters and you need to do it with love. She's someone that treated her work with a lot of love. Now, not only when she was working in the slums, right from when she was a nun, she did everything with a lot of love. Now, there's a difference when you do something with a lot of love and when you just do it for doing sake. When you are doing anything with love, with passion, your results tend to be better. Your results tend to be outspoken. You tend to draw attention. And that is what happened. She was not the only one who was going out there to help the poor. And the next lesson is we understand that one person can actually make a difference. And the question is, why don't you decide to be that one person who can make a difference? The truth is, we cannot change everything at the same time. But you see, you cannot also help all the hungry children. But the single child that you are going to help is going to make a whole world difference for that particular child. So right now I'm looking at how many people are on this chart and I'm seeing 67 people. Now just imagine out of these 60 people, each person is just helping a child. That means for 1 year, 60 children would have been helped. What a big difference would have made in the life of those children. Now, these children are going to grow up to become all sorts of different things. And of course, we are praying that they become the best. We could have ministers, we could have teachers.
I think Sir Gottlob is having network issues, but okay, he's back on board. All right.
He should be back.
Okay. All right. I think while waiting on him, I would love that we do a little exercise by writing down what lessons we've learned from Sir Gottloff's presentation in the chat box. Oh, amazing. Wow, amazing lessons. Thank you so much. Please would love to get the experiences, the lessons from many others who haven't spoken yet. Okay, let me go through a few. From Randy King, he says, we may not be able to help every hungry child, but we can help one child become someone in future. Bonkinyoy Nancy, I hope I pronounced it correctly. She says, you don't do it because it's easy. Definitely.
Okay, so Godlove is back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, my data is acting up. Okay, I want to believe that you were able to get right up to the last but one point. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Very right.
Okay, so the last point I was just about to give was that we should make giving a lifestyle. You see, there's something about giving right from the beginning of time. And what is it? When somebody gives, they never lack, especially when they are giving good motive, when they are giving from a good heart. Now, this is different from when you give because you're expecting. Mother Teresa made us to understand that giving to people that we never expect from them is the best format of giving. And you can only get to that point when you make giving a lifestyle. That means when you see somebody in need and you're in a position where you can help, you just help without expecting anything in return. But the universe have been divinely orchestrated in such a way that when you start living this type of lifestyle, there's always a way that it comes back to you. Of course, in good measures, in ways that you don't understand. So those are a few things that I think that each one of us can learn within this short period to be able to ask ourselves if we can in any way emulate the lifestyle of Mother Teresa. Now, when you go through her life, there are so many powerful quotes that come from her. But for the sake of our short discussion this evening, there's this one that I want us to end with, and it is do it anyway. She will say, do it anyway. And these were her words. She will say, people are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered, but you need to forgive them anyway. That means that people will wrong you and you'll be expecting them to ask for forgiveness, and they will never come for that. And you'll be thinking that they must ask for forgiveness because before you forgive them anyway. That is what Mother Teresa said. And there's a reason why he will ask you to forgive them. Because when you fail to forgive people and you start living in bitterness and anger, you're actually keeping a prisoner, and that prisoner is yourself. It's actually like drinking poison and expecting another person to die. She said, if you are kind, people may accuse you of being selfish, of ulterior motive, but you need to be kind anyway. So when you start supporting this initiative, when Mickey Gilbert decides with his team that they are going to start the Common Vision group, people may say that they are doing this because they are gaining from somewhere. They will try to discourage you. But the advice that Mother Teresa is giving us this evening as we round up is that you need to still be kind anyway. He says, if you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Of course, you need to succeed anyway. So don't allow the fact that you are going to get unfaithful friends. Don't take the fact that you are going to get enemies scare you of succeeding big. Just succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. People will take advantage of you. But she's exhorting us this evening to still be honest and sincere. The truth is, according to what you spend years creating, building, others can destroy overnight, but that should not stop you from creating anyway. If you find peace, happiness, serenity, some people are going to be jealous of you. But of course, she says, be happy anyway. Because you want to be talked about tomorrow. If you are giving today because you want to be talked about tomorrow, know that you are not on the right path. Why? Because everything you do good today, tomorrow, you are likely going to be forgotten. But then you still need to do good anyway. The best, if you give the best you have, it will never be enough, but still give your best. So this is her concluding word. She says in the final analysis, it's never been, it's between you and God. It's never been between you and those people who talk about you. It's never been between you and the people you are going to help. It has always been between you and God. And so those are the words, the powerful words of Mother Teresa that I just want to, drop them in our spirit this afternoon as we reflect on what we are going to do on these children who do not barely have enough for themselves, or parents of these children who cannot take care of them. By the time we start helping them with the meals, we are doing good for them, we'll be criticized. By the time we start helping them, people will tell us we want to do shosho. For people who are from Cameroon, they will understand what shosho is like. You are showing off. But then again, whatsoever we do for those ones, we are not actually doing for them. We are actually doing for ourselves, because we are building a better tomorrow for our own children. So thank you so much for listening. And once again, thank you to Mr. Mickey and his team for thinking that I could be part of this wonderful crew. Being on the same panel with Almighty, with Dr. Joybert, and having the beautiful minds of Patricia and my friend Randy King. So I wish each and every one of you a beautiful evening or beautiful afternoon with the rest of the crew. And I believe that by the end of the day, all of us are going to make those decisions that will make us build a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Please, can we give a round of virtual applause for Mr. Godlove? So thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. And as he rightly said, we can draw life experiences. We can actually get inspiration, not only for wanting to become meaningful, but in the path of humanitarian works. Now, I would love to say a few things about Mother Teresa. Through Mother Teresa, a lot of humanitarians or philanthropists have learned that life is meaningless if you don't live a life of use to others. If you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one. And I would love that you note that when you help someone or when you give to someone, you're not only doing good for that person, but you're doing good for yourself, because in the process of helping that person, you tend to discover more about yourself. You tend to discover a lot about yourself, and your path in life becomes clear. So thank you very much, Sir Godlove, for the wonderful presentation. And I would love to take this moment to appreciate the audience, the participants, for their active participation throughout the presentation. And so before we move to the next step, I would love that we indicate in the chat box. I would love that we indicate in the chat box from where we are watching the presentation from, just your country of residence or your present country where you are right now. Okay, and while the exercise is going on, we are going to move forward. Okay, thank you very much. Bamenza, United Kingdom, wow. Mauritius, that's nice. Womb, wow. Yaoundé, Cameroon. Sabga, wow. Okay. Thank you so much for joining in from wherever you are. And for those who just joined in the presentation, we are currently launching the school feeding program, especially for conflicting areas in Cameroon, and why not in Malawi, in Africa, and the world. So I would love that we pay attention to our screen as we have a picture. And this exercise we are about to do will take just 40 seconds of your time. I would love that you take a good look at the picture and you tell us anything. You interpret it and tell us anything about the picture in the chat box. Okay, thank you very much. I see the responses. So we are going to take a break and we'll come back to the exercise. So I would love that we move forward. Please keep your answers coming and we are going to move forward to our next presenter. Sir Randy?
Hi, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the wonderful responses to the icebreaker. Give your widow's might, give the little you can, hands willing and ready to help. Wow. Wow. Just a picture drives a lot in our minds already. And so that tells us we are good at interpreting what a simple picture can convey into our minds. We've heard the story of Mother Teresa, and now we want to hear someone who wants to share an experience he's had over the past years, growing up as a child to becoming who he is now. This man is a business and productivity speaker, trainer, consultant, and an entrepreneur. He has 11 years plus experience across 16 different nations. He is an expert in strategy and execution, an expert in process creation and implementation. He is known for the fact that he transformed businesses from just mere existence into dominance. Now, this is someone who existed before, but now he is dominating in the aspect of entrepreneurship and consultancy. Now, he is a CEO of COSDEF Group. He has a master's in business administration and is equally a PhD holder. I must let you know that this same man hails from the roots of Nsor, and he's a proud Nsor man. And presently, he must be beaming from Houston, Texas. Probably he went to look for a wife because he's still single. I hope so. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dr. Javnui Jobert as he thrills us with investing in children for a future productive society.
Thank you so much, Randy. And good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm saying good morning. It's still morning in Texas, so waking up. Please, can I share my screen? Whoever is controlling, let me share a picture or something and share. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So happy to.
Sir, please unmute your mic.
Somebody unmuted me. All right, can you get me now?
Yes.
Very well, very well.
All right. Amazing presentations so far, and thank you, Mickey and the team, for inviting us to be part of this vision. And thank you so much, Ogagodi, for sharing that legacy, and of course reminding us of the importance of giving back, of serving. And that is why when Mickey asked me to speak at this, and I was like, should I do another deep training and so on? And like, that's not necessary. I think this is something that practically resonates with me as a person. And that is why I felt that the best way that I can drive home the point which Mickey gave me is to share my story and to share some lessons from this story. So I hope you can see my screen. And for me to drive home the point and for you to understand perfectly what I'll be talking about, I would like to give a background story. Mickey asked me to talk on investing in children for a future productive society. Everybody is a child, right? We were all kids a few years back, and there are actually some people here right now who are speaking big grammar with heavy voices. Meanwhile, they were born after the year 2000. Right? We have all grown over time, and we have become men and women, but we are all children, and of course, we are still children. Now, let me share a brief story so that you get to understand the importance of the work that Community Vision Group is doing, and why personally I believe in this work that Mickey is doing. Now, I was just talking to my manager. I saw her in the group, and since Mickey shared with me this thing, I've been thinking of how I can be a consistent part of it. And I saw my manager here, Immaculate, and I just asked her a question. I'm happy to see you in the call. And what do you think we can do? I'd like to hear your thoughts. For me, one of my thoughts would be, how can we select a part from our company's profit on a monthly basis and begin to channel to community vision? That's how much I believe in that. And I'll present to the board. And of course, hopefully we'll get a good approval to do that, because this is very important. And it speaks to me as a person. I am a kid born out of wedlock, meaning I don't know my dad. My mom had me when she was in Form 4 in Jakiri. And for those who know the Northwest region very well. And I could struggle. So she remarried to my stepdad. And when I was done with class 7, that time they would say class 7 primary school, my stepdad's idea was that I should become a carpenter, because he was a carpenter, right? So I should not go to secondary school and become a carpenter. And nothing bad about being a furniture expert and all of that. But something happened. My mom's elder sister, she also called her, many people know her as my mom, actually, instead of my real biological mom, because I've grown up with her mostly. So she left Kumbo, came to the village and seized me from my mom. Like, how to collect, right? To collected me from that I must go to school. And that was the action that changed the course of my life forever. If that particular action was not done, I'll bet you by now I would still be in a village called Kwanso and basically being a carpenter and a good palm wine tapper, because I was already doing some good palm wine. And yeah, so we entered Kumbu at 1 a.m. in the night. I never forget that particular day. And throughout secondary school, you know, I struggled. Fees was never paid on time because my mom and my other mom, my second mom, right, had issues because she had her own kids she was sponsoring to school, and then me added to it and all of that. Then in the process of that, there's this particular man, and I'll center this story around him and another circumstance. This particular man, I used to call him Pa Mike. His first son is Michael, Pa Mike. And this particular man just saw me and liked me. And anytime that it was back to school, Pa Mike would buy me exercise books. Yes. You know, you just see a child on the street, just a child in the quarter in the neighborhood, and you like the child. And he'll buy me 40 leaves, 80 leaves, 60 leaves, whatever. He did that almost like from Form 2 right up to Form 5. Anytime that he sees me at school has gone back, any term, first term, second term, whatever, he will get me a book. And that was how I was able to go through secondary school, because different people from different areas were able to step up and support. And when I left Kumbu to Bamenda for high school, I've skipped the story to high school, there was this particular person in high school that we used to struggle to feed in high school in Bamenda. We used to struggle to feed. So sometimes we would leave from Old Town, also know Bamenda very well, and trek from Old Town to By 3 so that we can go and eat. And then we trek back to Old Town. That was how we used to survive to get food, because food was a luxury for us. I'm saying us because we were living, the three of us, in the house, in a one-room house. And thank God for that particular family. Secondly, what we used to do to feed was, there's this guy, and that's the last person I'm looking for. One thing I embarked on from 2 years ago was that anybody who supported me in any way in my journey, I would give back to that person. There's this particular guy, a Banso guy, who used to work in the bakery in Progressive High School in Bamenda, PCHS, Payong School. And during break, he will give us bread. He will send us bread from the window and we'll eat. And let me tell you, there was a week that for 5 days in school, I was eating under that bread and drinking water for 5 days. There was no money to buy food. There was no food in the house, so there was nothing to eat, right? And then one time there was this man that saw me in Bamenda. He came from Kumbu, saw me in Bamenda, and gave me 500 francs. That's $1. And with that 500 francs, I ate for about 8 days to 10 days. What was I doing? I'll go to school in the morning. When I close from school, I'll buy Gary. When Gary was still affordable, right? Not like now, still affordable. And I'll buy Gary for 50 francs. You put it in water and allow it to stay for about 30, so it could get so high, right? What they say, Gary need to get high and get much so you can eat. So I'll eat once a day after school for about 8 days before my mom was able to send me 5,000 francs on the 9th day. Now, why am I telling you this story? You will see that from this story, different people invested in me. And I'm telling you the story of food, not money. Food, not money. So that you understand that you may be in a place where you have the opportunity to eat 3 square meals a day. I can bet you there is somebody right beside you who doesn't know what they will eat for the next morning. I have been there several times. For those who know Bamenda, there was a time that I and my friend, we left Old Town and we climbed the upstation, C-Bend upstation. If you remember in Bamenda in those days, 10 years ago, there used to be bats, right? Those birds, bats at upstation. We'd take rubber gun, go to upstation and begin to shoot bats. We'll get a few, come and burn it, and that's how we're going to make Gary and eat the bats. Not because we wanted to do that. That was the only way we could feed. Now, if we did not feed, probably would have died of hunger and would have not been able to go to school or study or even succeed. There were several days we went to school, not knowing what we're going to eat after school, but you have to be in school. So because these various people and these various circumstances contributed a lot in one way or the other, whether it was a 500 francs, whether it was an exercise book for 100 francs, whether it was a gari for 100 francs, whatever those people did contributed to who I am today. If none of them stepped up at a particular point in time, maybe I would have fainted somewhere. Maybe I would have died somewhere on the street because I didn't have food to eat. And I can give you many other instances. Because I started partially sponsoring myself in high school. After high school, my mom said, I cannot see you through university. So I sponsored myself from my BSc to my DBA doctorate in business administration. But let me tell you, in all of these seasons, there are people that stepped in with help. It was not about how much, it was about the right help coming in at the right time. You may just think 1,000 francs is nothing for you, but did you just hear that with 100 francs, you can feed a child in school for a day? There are many kids who are not able to go to school because they don't have food to eat at home and they don't have food to eat in school. But I can categorically tell you, I've done work in villages. I know my village. If you go to my village now and do a program like this, many people will go back to school because they are excited that their kids will eat in school. And that could be the redefinition that they need to become the great people. My topic says, for a future productive society. For a future productive society. I always say this, and I've said this in several places. Mountains don't make a country. Trees don't make nations. Streets do not make a society. It is citizens, productive, effective citizens that make up a productive society and a growing nation with a strong economy. The work I do today is only possible because some people stood up and lent a helping hand. If I run a company today that provides employment to 17 employees and they're able to put food on their table and also support their family, it's because somebody somewhere offered a helping hand, no matter how small. If I work with companies across the world today and help them become more productive and make more money and employ more people, it's because somebody somewhere helped me to become better. The question for you is, will you invest in that one child? I always say something, if you cannot use your time to help somebody, let your substance help somebody. Your substance could be 1,000 francs every month dedicated to community vision. Your substance could be 10,000 francs every month dedicated to this vision. And someday, you will sit in a crowd somewhere, you watch television somewhere, and a child who has grown up to become successful will be sharing a testimony, and they will say, there was this organization in Cameroon, in Malawi, that provided me with food, which gave me the energy I needed to study to become better. And there's no other legacy than looking back and seeing somebody you assisted or somebody you did your best to contribute to their life. You're seeing them smiling and becoming better as far as this journey is concerned. I challenge you, make up your mind. One child, it could be 2, it could be 5. But there is something that you and I can do to make sure that somebody becomes productive tomorrow, and a productive society will be created because you stood up for something that was way bigger than you. And I'll conclude with this statement. In all thy actions, in all thy doing, make sure you are part of something that is way bigger than you. Thank you so much.
Wow, Wow, wow. Dr. Joybe, this is so heart touching. Your experience can make one weep. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much for sharing your story. If you cannot use your time to help someone, use your substance. And I want to ask us this question in as much as we appreciate him in the chat box. If no one took care of you, where would you have been so far? From Dr. Joybe's story, I could get Palm Mike, supported him, get books while he was in school. I could hear the guy from the bakery giving them bread through the window. And the guy from the bakery could think that he's doing nothing, but he didn't know he was feeding someone who would then feed a nation. I could see someone gave him 500 francs, that is $1, and he fed on that amount of money for 8 to 10 days before the mom could send money. That is just to tell you that no amount is too small. Of course, we cannot feed every hungry child, but we can feed that one child who will later on feed the nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Joybet, for this story. We're so grateful for those who stood up for you to support you. And we're so grateful for the fact that you're supporting a whole nation presently. Thank you once more, Patricia.
Thank you, Sir Randy. Thank you so much, Sir Joybed. You've reminded me of a favorite quote, although I don't actually know who said it. It says, "I am because you are," Ubuntu. And it really is, your story is really inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so we're going to go back to our activity, and I believe after listening to Dr. Javnyoy, we can have a clear interpretation of our picture. So again, I would love that we give clear understanding of the picture in the chat box. Okay. Okay. Next on our agenda, we are going to have an almighty speaker. She's a bilingual communication specialist, an entrepreneur, and multidisciplinary public health PhD candidate at Nottingham Trent University in the UK. She has over 10 years combined progressive experience in corporate communication, community engagement, social or commercial marketing, digital communication, public health, research, and leading communication strategies for reproductive health services or products in international and local nonprofits in Cameroon and the UK. She founded an organization known as Just Food, which is a low-cost food processing company where she leads the marketing of healthy, ready-to-cook African food in Cameroon and England. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I would love that we give a round of applause as we welcome Almighty Chafak, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I will just share my screen. Please, could you give me access to share my screen, please?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I guess everyone can see my screen. Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Almighty, and today I'll be talking about the focus of my presentation would be how food and culture intersect and how this intersection influences our eating patterns, especially in childhood, and how that later on affects our health outcomes as individuals and as families when we eventually become adults. So this presentation is going to be divided into 3 parts. It's going to be quite a short one. We're going to look at the overview, the relationship between food and culture. We'll look at how childhood eating patterns affect adult health outcomes. And finally, we'll have a look at the role of small farm holders in school feeding programs, which is one of the core reasons why we're here today. So I'm going to begin with around food. For many of us, we just eat food without truly understanding some of the background to the food we eat, without truly reflecting on what we express through the food we eat. I remember that my grandfather, I'm named after my maternal grandfather, so I'm named after Pa Chafak. So my grandfather, whenever you asked him, when he was in Yaoundé before he passed away, he's of blessed memory. Whenever you asked him, Papa, have you eaten? You asked him in our local language, Papa, have you eaten? And he says, no, I've not eaten. It means 2 things. It means actually either he has not eaten or he has eaten rice, he has eaten cocoyams, or he has eaten plantain. The staple food in my village where I come from is pounded cocoyams. So we boil cocoyams and we pound in order to make fufu, and we eat that with vegetables. So for Pa Chafak, for him, he had to swallow something for him to consider that he had eaten. And reflecting on this, what this tells me is how deeply ingrained the culture of swallowing is or was in Pa Chafak and the likes of Pa Chafak. Because the culture in our village is that of swallowing. Think about food. Food is consciousness, is the attention given to the details. Food is love. Food represents a certain level of bonding between people, between families, and between communities. And food is a reflection of our cultural identities. Actually, our culture is everything that involves our ways of life. Our culture, everything ranging from religion to our political views to the ways in which we do or do not do the everyday things we do in life. And that is where food and culture intersect. So food is a manifestation of our culture. And what I have here is a circle of how ekwang is prepared, from the peeling of the cocoyams to the grating, to the wrapping the ekwang in the small rectangular cocoyam leaves to make the very tiny and finger-like looking ekwang fingers, to cooking the ekwang, to cooking the ekwang using our traditional spices and using the variety of meats we all like to use in cooking ekwang. We realize that the amount of detail put in ekwang is tremendous when we think about it. Ekwang is a native dish from the southwest region of Cameroon, parts of the southwest region of Cameroon, and parts of Nigeria. And a Bafo woman once told me that for them, when someone cooks ekwang for you, it is a reflection of love. It is a display of love. And some people cook ekwang as an apology to their lovers, and therefore realize the importance that is being attached to food. And it is worthy of note that this importance that is attached to food spreads and has ripple effects on the outcomes of people early on in life and later on as adults. So we'll look at food and its cultural influences. So I'll begin with what I call food etiquette. And here I have a screenshot. I once on my status, as usual, I put the typical European table layout. And this is a screenshot of a chat I had with someone who responded to it. And the person asks here, which I pan for wash hand day? Incomplete if na exam you fail, which means he's asking where the bowl for him to wash his hands is. And that is a reflection of the kind of food etiquette he associates with his food. And many of us will agree that a lot of our native traditional foods are associated with washing our hands because we eat with our hands. In other cultures, eating with your hands is considered rude, is considered inappropriate. Even for those who have moved away from their villages or from their countries, you realize that they still carry along their food cultures. And despite moving around along with their food culture, sometimes these food cultures change. And they change in ways in which the ingredients are being substituted. I'll give an example. In England or in the UK in general or abroad in general, those who cook eru, many of them cook eru, they cook eru not with water leaf because of the inaccessibility of water leaf. Sometimes water leaf is available, but sometimes it's very expensive as well. Or sometimes it's not even available on the market. And therefore spinach is being substituted for water leaf. And even back in Cameroon, I remember in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, when waterfood was not yet widely sown in Yaoundé, when we had to cook eru, I grew up in Yaoundé, we had to cook eru with nkunkum. I don't know how many people know nkunkum, but nkunkum is dried cassava powder, which is cooked like fufu, and it's almost like waterfood, but it's just different, the fact that it is a bit more elastic. So we're substituting water fufu for kunkum. And in addition to that as well, different foods are associated with different cultures. When you talk about eru, what do you think about? When you talk about a cock is a version of eru which is cooked with granules. What do you think about? You think about those in the center region of Cameroon. So those are some of the differences that you find that when it comes to food, people will associate it with different cultures, different ways of being, different ways of cooking. And here, the culture equally is manifested in the kind of ingredients that are being chosen to cook the food, the time at which the food is cooked, and for what event the food is cooked. Condre, my Bamileke heritage would say that when a baby is born, you have to cook condre in a particular way. Condre is porridge plantain in a particular way in order to welcome the baby. Let's talk about food and cultural imperialism. When we look at food, food has influenced us in many ways. And with digitalization, this has gone ahead to change in so many other ways. Let's begin with the notion that white is better. We have this notion that when anything comes from abroad, when it's foreign, it is better in terms of quality. It is better in terms of every other thing. And it is with this notion that we have had that our food choices are beginning to change, especially with the growing middle class in Cameroon in particular and in Africa in general. Our eating habits are changing. And as those eating habits change, so too is our health changing. If you look at the statistics, non-communicable diseases like heart diseases, like strokes, the prevalence of those diseases are increasing in our societies, in our communities, and across and within our countries because of the fact that we are seriously changing our eating patterns. And the West, especially, I would say, especially the US, is doing a great job at selling their food culture to us. Look at McDonald's, for example, and other fast foods. Today, McDonald's has over 40,000 restaurants in over 100 countries. And it has, despite the fact that it adapts its franchise to different local realities, it's still the same idea. You have fast food that you're eating, that you're being fed with. How healthy is this food? And they have marketed their food such that the growing middle class looks at fast food as a status conferrer. Let's think about our lives. When you go to Boya today, or even when you go to Yonda and Douala, there are a lot of fast food joints that have sprung up selling foods like this. And many people would prefer to go there because it shows that they're of a certain status. It shows that they can afford it, rather than eat traditional meals, which for the most part are healthier. On the internet these past days, I think there has been a resurrection of the war on jollof rice. The fight between Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana, as far as who cooks the best jollof rice. I followed social media with keen attention, and I've captured 2 screenshots. This is one of them. It says that we too get chop. We know they sell jollof rice for restaurant. Now for picking birthday party and die place jollof rice, we get them for how for do. While in Nigeria, if you go to an event and there is no jollof rice, or jollof rice is not prepared, then that event has not been well done. For them, it is the main thing. While in Cameroon events, just like Ni Alene Menget says, it's just the how for do. It is that meal that when you cook for an event and all the other main meals are finished and guests who come late arrive, you serve them in order to what we call save face, in order for them not to consider that they came to your event and went away hungry. When it is cooked for an event, those who cook it usually think, oh, picking then go chop with it. That means what will children eat when jollof rice is being cooked? And this is associated with our culture, the kind of foods we have. Cameroon has a variety of food, and that's why sometimes it is referred to as a breadbasket of Africa. And it is based on this that we look at jollof rice or rice in general from that perspective. And that's the kind of meaning we attach to rice, to rice in general and jollof rice in particular, while the Nigerians attach a different kind of meaning to rice and jollof rice. So here, I just want to ask a random question, and please I'd like us to use the chat box. When you are sick and you're in hospital, when you're sick, whether you're in hospital or at home, what kind of foods would you expect people who are coming to wish that you get well, or those who are coming to see you, what kind of foods will you like them to bring for you? Or what kind of food gift will you like them to bring for you? Or what kind of food gifts do they usually bring for you? Please, let's use the chat box. I see ekwang, fufukwan and okra, pepper soup plantain, pepper soup arrow, vegetables and fruits. I see fufukon and katikati, fufukon and jamanjama and katikati. I see, oh, fufukon and huckleberry can make me well. Achu, fruit, pepper soup, potatoes. Okay. Thank you very much for those very interesting responses. You know, and this is where I re-emphasize the fact that our foods and our food choices are a reflection of where we come from. They're a reflection of our ways of life. They're a manifestation of our culture. In England, if I were sick in this house and my white friends were to visit me or to come to visit me, nobody will bring me roast dinner. Nobody will bring me potatoes. I'll probably receive things like cards, like chocolates, like sweets, or maybe cakes of different types. And you realize that it comes from their culture. While my African friends are going to bring some of these things you've spoken about, my white friends are going to bring entirely different kinds of food gifts because of where we come from, because of the kind of food we eat. I'll tell you guys a short story. In 2015, when I came to the UK for the first time, when I came for chevening, and there was this program of, okay, it was an integration program for us to integrate and learn the English culture. So we had to choose to either spend a day or a weekend with an English family. And I did decide to spend a weekend with an English family. And amongst all the other things that shocked me, there was the issue of food. You know, I arrived there on a Friday evening, and the couple were so excited. Oh, Almighty is coming, we've been waiting for you. We're going to have dinner, we're going to go for fish and chips. And they were so excited. It was fish and chips here is one of the delicacies. And I really had to restrain myself from complaining because one, I don't like the fish and chips is fish in batter and potato chips. I don't like anything in batter. So fish and chips already is a no-no for me. I got to a restaurant and I had to politely try to pick the fish from the batter, not to eat the batter, because I just couldn't help it. Secondly, I realized that over the weekend, when we talk about lunch, they were having sandwiches for lunch. When I say sandwiches, it's like if you know what we call kumba bread, it's bread, you know, it's square of bread sliced into two, and you make a sandwich and you are given 2 or 3 with a cup of tea. And I was starving. For them, it's their culture. Even my supervisor, when she says, oh, Almighty, I'm going for lunch, I smile and we understand each other because for her, lunch is sandwich. For me, lunch has to be fufu. It has to be something heavy. It stems from where I come from. This is another comment by Christabel, who talks about jollof rice not being serious for us in Cameroon. She says, and it's interesting to note the way she puts it. She says, again, the second paragraph says, again, we see you. We love what you do to kids at parties. We see how you are used as last resort when every other thing is finished. But when the host has late guests, we acknowledge you, but girl, it's not you we fight for. And she puts a laughing emoji. I find this really interesting because why the Nigerians go to fight for jollof rice, Cameroonians will go to an event and eat jollof rice as a last resort. So this gives us a bit of an understanding of and of a background of the importance of food, and how it plays on our cultures and how it eventually plays out on our health outcomes. And we're talking about school feeding programs, especially in crisis settings, and talk about school feeding programs in rural areas, or even in urban areas for that matter. These are things that are important to take into consideration because they affect how our kids eat and affect our patterns later on in life. How many of us have sat and thought, oh my God, this is what I used to eat when I was growing up, but now I realize that it's no longer healthy. The excessive carbs, the huge portions where we're not doing any physical activity, and the absence or the almost non-existence of proteins in our meals. And later on in life, we'll have to struggle to change those things because they begin to affect our health as we grow older. So now look at a few benefits of school feeding, especially in crisis in crisis settings. Mickey at the beginning touched on this, he did talk about it, but I just want to talk about 3 major benefits of school feeding. As we think about sacrificing, as we think about extending a hand and contributing that drop of water that will eventually make a bucket of water and consequently make an ocean in order to make a difference in the lives of these kids. Whether we had something to eat at school where we're growing up or not, like my predecessors have said, the other speakers have said, I think it's important that we're able to reach out and understand the benefits and understand the background against which the school feeding programs were conceived in the first place, and understand the benefits it will bring to those kids for this generation and for the generations to come. So one of the things to note is the fact that this balanced school meal improve the micronutrient status of primary school children and adolescent girls. Usually emphasis is put on the first 1,000 days of life for kids to follow them up, to make sure that they're well fed, to make sure that they survive. But after the first 1,000 days of life, what happens? So the school feeding program comes in to look at the first 7,000 days of life, to be able to maintain and continue the healthy eating patterns, such that we have kids who live to their full potential, who live out their full potential, and kids and adolescents who are healthy. In humanitarian settings, for example, when you have kids who are able to feed in school, it reduces the negative impact of emergencies on health, on nutrition, and on education, and equally improves access to education. Joybert just said, if you go back to Kumbo and you are going to feed kids in school, there are many kids who will go back to school, go back to those safe spaces because they are sure that they're able to eat in school. Some parents are unable to send their kids to school because when they send them to school, they're not sure what these kids are going to eat. And now, in order for kids to be healthy, enough for them to study properly, they should be able to eat and eat well. And finally, one of the things I equally want to emphasize as a benefit of school feeding that we should have at the back of our minds as we dip our hands into our pockets and encourage those next to us to contribute, even if it means just giving a 500 francs, is the fact that this school feeding reduces vulnerability and increases family income. Because studies shows that school feeding saves 10% of family income per child. So if we imagine that we're saving 10% of family income per child, we have average families will have between 3 to 5 children. We can imagine the amount of money that is being saved. We can imagine how many children are being saved from being vulnerable. Some kids will do anything just to eat, from stealing to offering sexual favors, just to be able to eat. So let's equally look at childhood eating patterns and the impact it has on our future health outcomes. And I'll begin this by giving us a small anecdote. Let's just think for 20 seconds. Let's look at our kitchen setups. The setup in our kitchens, if you go for the women among us, where we have to set up our own kitchens or eventually start living on our own or get married, if we look at our kitchen setups, they're almost a reflection of our mother's kitchen setups. For the men who live on their own and who are kitchen freaks, who like to cook, who like to do things, their own kitchen-related stuff on their own, is the same thing. Their kitchen setups are almost a reflection of their mother's kitchen setups. Our eating habits are almost the same. Our cooking habits are almost the same. If we came from home where there was always abundant food, we'll most likely have that attitude of having abundant food in our own homes. We came from homes where food was very highly rationed. We'll most probably unconsciously ration food in our own homes. And that is the exact thing that is mirrored with childhood eating patterns. And when this is mirrored and later on in life, we begin to have issues, we begin to develop issues with our health. And here and that obviously there are different outcomes when you have school feeding programs. Those eating patterns have different outcomes in terms of school performance, in terms of socioeconomic progression. But here I want to focus on health outcomes. So look at the fact that healthy nutrition in childhood, it breaks generations of malnutrition. When you look at the statistics, a lot of our kids are malnourished, and it goes from generation to generation because we pick up on what our parents do, we repeat the same cycle, and the cycle of malnutrition continues, sometimes unconsciously. However, when we take part in school feeding programs, or our kids take part in school feeding programs, it breaks this cycle of malnutrition. And that takes me to point number 3, which has to do with improved nutrition and health and community levels. When our kids go to school and they are given healthy meals, they know about the importance of healthy meals or how to actually prepare healthy meals or nutritious meals. They bring back that knowledge back to our families. And you have your kids tell you, oh, mama, no, our teacher said this is better. It's better to eat rice and beans or rice and granules rather than eating maybe rice and some other combination. And eventually, that transfer of knowledge helps with the family's eating patterns as well, and in the long term improves on the health of families. And equally leads to lower health expenditures, because let's have this scenario. Imagine that we have kids going to school who are not eating healthily. There's a high probability of them falling sick. And if they fall sick, that means that part of the family income is going to be spent on trying to treat that child. And which means that money that will have been used maybe to send their siblings to school would be converted into hospital bills, because we still have to do out of pocket payments. And consequently, siblings drop out of school, or the child who is sick drops out of school, or the family becomes heavily indebted from jangies, etc., because they have to take care of the child. But then you see there's a ripple effect from breaking a generation of malnutrition to improving health at household and community levels, because the children inevitably bring back that knowledge to the household, and it helps improve nutritional patterns in those households, and consequently reduces expenditure for parents whose kids take part in those programs. And finally, like I stated, our healthy dietary habits are shared at a very young age, with implications for prevention of chronic diseases such as heart diseases, lifestyle diseases such as heart diseases. It accumulates over time. Immediately, you do not see the effects of you not eating healthy, of being physically inactive, of always being stressed. But within the next 10 years, you realize that your lifestyle has increased the risk of you developing cardiovascular disease, for example, because of the cumulative effect. And therefore, it's very important that in childhood, that eating habits are established, and established in a practical way, not only by teaching in school, but by actually providing meals for kids in school, or having them have their own, or encouraging them to have their own homegrown gardens. And finally, we'll look at the role of small farm holders in school feeding programs. So small farm holders are farmers, usually within the rural areas, as some of them in the urban areas as well, who do farm, but there's a surface area within which the farm is small. Their produce is relatively small. That's what they're called small farm holders, as compared to other large or industrial farmers. One of the first things about school feeding, like any other project or program, is the buy-in of the local stakeholders, of the local communities. So when you look at the role of small farm holders, when these farm holders, when they're involved in school feeding programs, what that means is you're getting their buy-in, you're getting them to accept the program and to see themselves as part of the program, and to see themselves as benefiting from these programs. And this eventually leads to sustainability of these school feeding programs. The school feeding programs become local because these small farm holders do provide locally available food that is sourced from within those areas. We don't have food flying from out of the country or out of the region to come to feed our kids. Imagine if I were a small farmer back in my village in Mogumbi in the Southwest region, and I had to provide food to school. Why won't I send my kids to school? Why won't I support the school feeding program? Because I know that in return, my food is being bought. I have a readily available market for my food. And I know that the local food in my village is being given to children. And it's equally a way of maintaining our cultural identity. It equally helps these farmers to scale up their production. It improves on the diversity of the diet, it improves on the food quality, it increases local food consumption as well. So we do involve the small farm holders in school feeding programs. It does actually help them to make sure that every day we're not eating achu, or every day we're not eating ero if we are somewhere in the Southwest region. We're able to eat other cassava products. We're able to eat other variation of the way ero is cooked. We're able to eat a variation of other foods that are grown in that region. And finally, including small farm holders and school feeding programs actually improve on their livelihoods, because when they have readily available markets, they scale up consumption. And when they scale up consumption, what that means is they have improved incomes, because production has increased, there's a readily available market. If they're farming, if if their farms will produce 100 bags of beans, they're no longer scared that these beans will be eaten away by insects and they will not be able to sell all of them. They are sure of the 100 bags of beans, they're able to every single bag of beans. And that means that they have much more money. And that means that they're able to plow back this income and the profits and the associated profits into their business, and which means they're equally able to step up the standards of living. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a complete circle. The school feeding programs. It begins from our ways of life. It begins from the meanings we attach to our food, and right back to us farming, cultivating those foodstuffs and using them to continue the cycle of maintaining our cultural identity through food, such that down the line, while we have healthy children and we have healthy adults. And that will be it for today. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Ma'am Almighty. Thank you so much for the mighty inspiration. And as she rightly said, as she rightly presented on connecting food and culture for a healthy and educated child, she told us of she made us realize that food items have meanings attached to them. Thank you so much for reminding us that little drops of water will definitely make an ocean. And so, moving forward, we are going to have a story. We are going to get stories on school feeding experiences from two people. Permit me share my screen. We're going to get the stories from two people who belong to the CVG family, Community Visions Group family. So I would love to welcome Bonkinyo Nancy. Please, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. It's a privilege for me to be in this panel today to share my experience back then in the primary school. As you see on the flyer, I say time for lunch break in order to go around begging. I mean, I was not even having a word, and I was privileged to be offered. Now, I could not carry this home because it will be destroyed. Before I go on, I would like to say Italy deranged mother, and I was depending on his farm, and equally had his own children to cater for. And he normally tells us that education is the key. Now I was offered this clock and was made the time office, and I will negotiate with some students that I will give more time for them to play during break so that they will give me food. I mean, in the family, we were so many and the food was rationed, and we were having just a 1 square meal per day. And as individuals, we had to choose when to eat. When I get up in the morning and I'm not too hungry, I just take my own portion of food and cover that I'll eat after school. And while in school, I use the double strategy to get food from my friends. And coming back home, I don't just come back alone. I again bring friends who are even in a worse situation than me to come and share my own food. Why? Because when they share, we all would join to do my work, which was either to harvest pepper from the farm or coffee from the garden that I have to pound to be able to come out with a large quantity that will be sold for my fee to be generated. I mean, it was never an easy experience. And then at one moment in school, we had students, pupils who could be able to afford to buy things. And there was this girl selling sweet in the classroom. I boldly walked up to her and borrowed the one for 50 francs with the notion of getting money from my uncle to come pay the next day. I mean, the story I took to him was this. I went to him and complained that I had no pen, the blue and the red pen. He just nodded his head, and the following day in the morning, I went to him excitedly, waiting to receive my money, 200 francs to go pay sweet and even have money to eat some. Unfortunately for me, he walked into his room and came out with 2 pens, the blue and the red. I mean, how that debt was paid to this very day, I can't remember. And that taught me a lesson of the year. One other thing was that I get up sometimes in the morning and I have roasted cocoyams or plantains. You know, this normally goes with palm oil or salt. And when I look at the quantity of oil that is in the container, you're battling between, and at one moment you just forgo it and eat your plantain. So when I came across the school feeding program, I was sharing with Dr. Miki and saying, I feel like going back to the primary school to benefit from this program, to be able to do something. So after primary, I was fortunate to be brought to an orphanage where I grew up to then, and today I am a graduate in public health and so passionate about nutrition. And when I look back, I tell myself that if I haven't been brought to an orphanage, I don't know where I could be today. Probably a mother of so many in the village who probably would have been suffering worse than me. And I just give glory to God, and I am so passionate to drive this vision with community vision, to do the best I can to support the underprivileged. And I want to say that this project is worth it, and we should all team up to support it so that many back there will not go through what we went through, but that they will have the good nutritious diet that will support them to reach their full potentials tomorrow. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Nancy. I think I'm going to remember you for one thing. When I reached out to you, you kept on telling me you hold it so dearly, and we should be looking forward to your story. Thank you so much. Our next storyteller is no other person but Platin. Please, if you're here, if you're present, please, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Patricia. I hope you can get me. Please, can you get me?
Yes, very well. 5 on 5.
All right. I'm really honored to share with you my story and my experience back then in the primary school. It was really not easy back then. And I'm honored to share this forum with a lot of bright minds in the like of Mr. Mickey, Dr. Jamie Joybet, you, Randy King, Mr. Jisong, and Patricia. So growing up as a kid, I lost my parents quite early. Yeah, so as you might well imagine, I lived the rest of my time, my primary school time, with my grandparents. So while living with my grandparents, the rule was you eat once. Most of the time, that was like routine. In rare cases, we ate twice. So usually we go to school without eating, and instead of focusing on the teacher, on the lessons, you spend your time waiting for the timekeeper to ring the lunch break. And when this usually happens, you will go out on lunch break to beg food. We already knew the spots where those who always had food were. So I and my brother spent time walking around to beg food, stretching your arm and all of that. So we were always excited about the lunch break, not to go and share food, not to go and eat what we brought, but to go and beg food. So this actually has a very strong impact, negative impact on our education. We were never focused in class. Some days we had to absent to attend weddings, at times to go for wed kids at night, you know, engage in other extracurricular activities where you have food to eat. And at the end of the day, I remember in class 7, that was before the transition to the ending primary school in Cameroon, and class 6, we were denied the common entrance exams. The reason was that the principal or the headmaster thought if we write the common entrance exams, we will give the school less than 100% that they have always had. So I and my brother, our money was given back and we were only allowed to write the first school leaving. So that's how bad it affected our education. So we only had the first school leaving for the simple reason that they knew we failed because that affected us so badly. We had registered, but our money was given back. So that is just to emphasize the weight of feeding, the importance of feeding in the school, in the life of a growing child. You know, as a kid, the highest preoccupation, the highest challenge children have, their utmost desire is always to feed. And when they feed, the next thing is to play before education even comes in. So imagine the first need of a child is not met. It is so obvious that the school can never be appropriately done. They can never be appropriately educated because they will always be distracted. And worst of all, as a health personnel that I am, I'm a medical student actually, you know, we receive a lot of kids suffering from malnutrition. Thank God I never suffered malnutrition. And this has a great, not just short impact, but long-term impact on the growth of children. It ranges from physical growth retardation to mental retardation and what have you. So I think the school feeding program, when I saw it in the Open Dreams group chat, I immediately related to it almost directly because, you know, it reflected very well on my past, on my history, on how I spent my primary school days. I mean, I remember once, since I was living with my grandmom, she traveled and we had to be eating plantains while the plantain was yet to be harvested. Like, it was not yet matured. You go and harvest a hand of plantain, you come and cook, but you cannot cut it down because it's not yet matured. So we had to feed and we had to do everything from, you know, attending weddings, wed keeps, and all of that to survive. So this is really a call for us to serve. Like Martin Luther King said, that not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great. I think all of us can be great. He further said, greatness is determined by service. So this school feeding program by the Community Vision Group is actually an opportunity for us all to serve, no matter your profession, no matter what you have, because it's not the size of what you give that matters, but it's the heart that gives. You know, the quantity of what you give, the good you do to other people is measured by how much, it's not measured by how much you give, but by the weight of the heart that is giving. So I think this is a call for us all to really support this program, not just ourselves, but this meeting, this webinar is to empower us to be able to bring many other people to buy the idea of the school feeding program. I'm sure all of us belong to a class group, to a meeting, to an initiative. So this is an opportunity for us to be empowered to go back and involve many other people. Like they say, many hands do like work. So you don't have to stop feeding to feed your neighbor. You don't have to trek to sacrifice money and feed your neighbor. I mean, you just have to sacrifice a drink that you usually take. You just have to sacrifice those extra small things. Like the previous speaker said, that 500 francs alone is enough to give a child, like they said, one meal is 150 francs. 500 francs is already 3 meals. Because that the 500 francs we easily spend on getting a drink, and we don't realize how much we are spending, but that's a whole lot. That if we just sacrifice those extra things, we don't have to stop feeding to feed others. Just need to sacrifice those extra things to give into this program and sponsor it, and we see to it that we are able to support these children and their families who have been greatly affected by the Anglophone crisis, which have even brought the mighty. Those who are surviving and doing so well have been brought down to the knees of this crisis. I mean, I'm in Bamenda and I'm living the reality, and I can see what people go through. And then this have so much great impact on the young ones. So I will, without any further ado, I will end by saying that this program will reassure and guarantee the future of our nation, as it will make sure that those that will be in that future will be properly educated. Someone said, guns can kill terrorists, but education kills terrorism. So if we don't invest in the education of these kids, there is no future for Cameroon, and there's no good future for the world. So I will end with a quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger, the famous Hollywood actor. He said, "You should have a vision. You should think big. You should get your act together, give back, and change the world. And that if not us, who and that if not now, when? So I think this is the time that we need to support the community vision group to make sure we realize the feeding of these young ones. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Platin. It's been an honor having you here. And thank you for letting us know that greatness is defined, it's determined by our service to others. And I would love to say that it's thanks to Platin that we were inspired to include the storytelling into our presentation. That says a lot. Thank you so much. And so I'll hand over the mic to Randy King.
All right, thank you so much. I think we're already wrapping up, and just for some clarity's sake, we should note that a plate of food is 150 francs, and we have 1,409 children to feed. And the area where we want to feed these kids are actually in conflict-infected areas. I want to feed these kids for a period of 180 days. And the number of meals in total will be 269,820. And the cost to feed a child for these 180 days is 27,000 francs only. Who is going to help feed these kids apart from us? So let's wrap up by having Dr. Mickey come on board and wrap it up.
Hi, Randy. Hi, Patricia. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for sustaining up to this moment. It's been a very long session, I must admit. And please, can you help me, enable me to share the screen? Thank you. Yes, I think I can do so now. Thank you. Yeah, just before I hope you can see my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, it's very okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I proceed, I wish to really thank Professor Alan Jackson for staying on up to this moment. Thank you, Prof. I want to thank Elias, who is joining us from Canada. Thanks a lot for showing up to encourage us as we go through this journey. As I take the last part of this presentation, I just want us to reflect on this powerful statement by Mahatma Gandhi, who said, we should remember the faces of the poorest and the weakest person in our society that we have ever seen. And we ask ourselves if this step we are contemplating, you contemplate, is going to be any use to that person. And I put this saying in context to say, let us recall the faces of hungry children in our society that we have ever seen. And we ask ourselves at this moment, if this school feeding program that we are talking about here, if it's going to make any difference in the lives of these children. If we can recall these faces and we are determined to make the difference, that is the power of school feeding programs that we are talking about here. And so as we close down, we've been able to share some highlights on how to give, how to donate, how to get involved. Permit me just to give an overview of the broad-based financing mechanism, just to highlight how it goes. We have been re-echoing from time to time that to feed a child is just going to cost 150 francs CFA in local currency. In British pounds, it's 20 pence. In dollars, it's 24 cents. In euros, it's 0.25 euros to feed a child per day in our targeted safe learning environment. We decided to come up with this quick table just to let us understand that you can choose to be part of this journey in different ways. If you're signing up to say, I want to sponsor 10 plates of food, it's going to cost you in local currency 1,500 francs. if you want to take 20, 3,000 francs will be feeding 20 children at a time. Right up to where you can dedicate to say, I want to donate one-off, I want to donate weekly, I want to donate monthly, quarterly, or annually. You can choose how to make a difference in the lives of these children. Nothing is too small. Like Mother Teresa did say in her quote, if you cannot feed 100 people, just feed one person. That is the difference you can make. And as we move on, just to quickly highlight again, we have bank transaction. We are in Cameroon with UBA Bank. You can get the transaction details if you want to do donation through bank transfer. Through UBA Bank, we have the SWIFT code that you can use, do your operations in euro. You have the SWIFT code if you want to do the operations in US dollars. And we also have, interestingly, the mobile money account, thanks to the MTN company at the level of Cameroon. We have the MTN mobile money account, which makes transaction locally very easy. So the account details are there, and the account name is Community Vision Group. In the UK, donations within the UK, you have the account number as well with the sort code, and the account name is Community Vision Group still. So this is, in a nutshell, bringing the session to a final end. And just to say thank you. If I knew each and every one of us, if I knew your languages, your mother tongue, I don't know how I can express thank you. But again, if you're joining in from Bansotland, I will say Beriwo. If you're joining in from Boom, I will say Ayona. If you're joining in from Malawi, I will say Zikomo, Gracia, merci. I will just go on and go on. Thank you very much. And I will stop here again to say a very big thank you to those who are joining out of Cameroon. And please, I will be very open, leave the floor very open for if there is any word for anybody who wants to say a word to as we wrap up the session, please just indicate and we'll give you the room. Again, thank you.
Thank you so much for these great words, great vision, great passion. And as we wait for people to come on board and give us some few words as we close the session, I want us to begin to rethink and ask ourselves the following questions. How much do you eat daily and how much do you eat monthly? There are some people who do not have food to eat daily or monthly, yet we eat so well daily, 3 square meals. We eat so much monthly. How much do you eat daily and how much do you eat monthly? The next key question I want to ask us is, your data bundle, how much do you spend for data daily and how much do you spend for data monthly? Is this not enough money we can use to feed a child or to feed kids to send them back to school? What about the bottle of drink you consume daily? What about a cup of coffee? What about the shoes you wear? What about the dresses you put on? What about that jewelry? Oh, let me even go to the basic, the haircut we do and our hairdo and even the makeup we have. All of these we spend on them. What if we just sacrifice once and for all to feed a child so that the child can become better in future? What about the fuel we put in our cars? What about the money we pay for transportation? Is it not enough to feed a child? I think there is a lot we can do as individuals. There is a lot we can do as a community. There is a lot we can do as a nation to feed these kids. They need us. They need me. And so I'm asking myself, if I eat 1,500 francs safer every day, That means I'm consuming food enough to feed 10 kids. What if I just sacrifice this money to feed 10 kids? What if instead of drinking a bottle of drink, which is worth 700 or 800 francs, and I decide to say, I am not going to take this drink again for this number of days, I'm going to take the money and help sponsor this vision. What about data? There are moments I even go online and I have no need being online. The money for data that day could have been used to sponsor a child to school and feed a child. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a cry for each and every one of us. If you cannot help someone with your time, help someone with your substance. It's never small. Let's lay hands, put hands on deck, and let's see how we can feed these kids. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Randy. I would love to take this time to appreciate everyone who came here to participate. And like I said earlier, your presence is not taken for granted. Thank you so much for coming here to push this initiative forward. Thank you for taking our time to make a change, to become great, to become significant. And so I would love to end the session. But before that, I would love to get two people to come up and give us concluding remarks. So you might just indicate in the chat box or raise your hands, and we'll pick two people at random. Thank you.
I can see Theophilus Car, the hand was up since. Okay, Nathaniel has indicated as well.
Please, we need two persons to give us a concluding remark. Okay, Mr. Theophilus and Mr. Charles. Mr. Theophilus, please, you have the floor. Please kindly unmute your mic and tell us what you have in mind.
I think Theophilo has been on for quite some time. Maybe we just go straight to Charles and then the next person who has indicated.
Okay, Mr. Charles, you're next, please. Okay. Words of Sir Alan Jackson. Would love to hear from you.
Maybe we enable the board chair of Community Vision Group, Mr. Joseph Ban.
Okay.
Okay.
Closely after Mr. Joseph, we're going to have Mr. Charles, please.
Can I speak?
Yes, please. The floor is yours.
Okay. It was just a quick remark. I'm so grateful to see the number of people who've attended and have committed to the program. This is a program which I am fully committed, and I will be supporting it all the way. It was just to say thank you for everybody who participated, and I'll be looking forward to your participation in full. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Sir Charles, we're waiting on you, please. Sir Charles, I think you can speak now. Okay. Seems like we've lost him due to network issues.
Okay. I'm wondering how possible is it for us to enable people to put on their videos and we have a group photograph? I don't know how that is going to happen.
That will be possible if Ma'am Lillian permits everyone to share their video.
If who does so?
Ma'am Julian.
Okay, I don't think it's possible. Okay. I think we're running quite close. It's been a long session and there's some burnout. But just to say again, thank you, each and everyone. Thanks to the valuable speakers, the amazing participants, and the kind words of the board chair to the entire community, community vision group family. We say thank you for every action that we're going to take. On behalf of Community Vision Group, we want to transcend this to the number of children that are going to be benefiting from our gesture, to our share of love. This is just a show of love, and we say thank you. Patrick?
Okay. Thank you so much, Sir Gilbert. Once again, thank you everyone for making out time to attend this session. I have been your moderator and I have been moderating this event with Randy. Many thanks, and looking forward to seeing you come join us and make a change and put a smile on the faces of the children. So thank you so much. The session is ended. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay